Comfortable 3-0 victory at the Amex Stadium against Chelsea in the Premier League. The Seagulls opened the scoring in the first half as Mitoma scored one of the goals of the season, taking a long ball from Verbruggen under control before darting past Chalobah and firing into the bottom corner. Shortly after, Brighton, who produced 1.7 expected goals in the game, doubled their lead as Minte was found in the box by Welbeck and he evaded the challenge of Cucurella before finding the back of the net from close range. After the break, Chelsea enjoyed more of the possession, but they couldn't find a way through. It was Hösler's side who found the third and final goal of the game, as Welbeck once again picked out Minte, who struck towards the near corner, seeing his shot deflect off Chalobah and fly beyond Jorgensen. It was a disappointing display from Chelsea, who created just 0.57 expected goals throughout, and they will need to bounce back away to Aston Villa next weekend. Up next for Brighton is a trip to Southampton in the Premier League. They're loving it at the Amex, and why not? 2 wins over Chelsea in a week. They knocked them out of the FA Cup just, 6 days ago? And today they take all 3 points away. And what's amazing is that 2 weeks ago, Brighton lost 7-0 to Nottingham Forest. Football is bizarre. Today they beat Chelsea very comfortably. Explain. Well, obviously they learned a lot from that loss to Nottingham Forest. They had key players missing. I think Balabat, Rob, obviously you've spoken really highly of him. And I think that's been the key to everything. What I would say is that when you look at this Brighton team, they did nothing different than when they beat Chelsea 2-1. They didn't have to do anything different. And I think the concerning thing for me, when you look at this Chelsea team, is that I think that was probably one of Brighton's easiest games of the season. Defenders weren't moved out of position, they weren't stretched, they weren't asked questions of, and it just looked like a Chelsea team that were just disjointed, ill-disciplined on and off the ball. And yes, okay, the innocence of youth can have part to play in that, but they just looked as though they didn't even look like a team out there. Robbie, that's unforgivable, isn't it? If the first game you get knocked out of the FA Cup and then the second game, you know exactly what you're going to come up against and you do nothing at all to force them to change, they were the perfect date for Brighton on Valentine's Day. And when I look at performance, Bex, of all the times I've seen Chelsea this season, that's as bad as it gets. No shots on target with that amount of possession in this team. For all the money they've spent, Bex, there's still holes in this squad of areas that need improving. But forget that. Let's look at Brighton, a talented group of players who play as a team. Chelsea are a talented group of players, full stop. At the moment, they're not playing like a team. And in the central areas of pitch, where I used to play, where I used to think that's where the game is won, that's where the energy comes from, they lacked energy, they lacked drive, they lacked intensity, they lacked leadership. All those things that should be a given. Forget your ability, forget if you're a world-class player and you can bend the ball in from 30, energy, intensity, duels, they lost all those in a game against a Brighton team that, as Danny said, that's probably about as easy a game as Brighton are going to have on a Friday night, and they can have a great weekend. Danny, are you losing faith in Enzo Maresca? I think if you look at what the team did earlier in the season, I think there is an argument to say yes. I think my concern is I look at this group of players and I'm not convinced that they know what they're supposed to do. So they're just doing their own thing. We look at Minto, who was wonderful for Brighton, but look at the players that got around them. Veltman, Welbeck, Webster, experience. You can have some of the best youngsters in the world, but if you don't have experience around you, situations like this are going to occur. Slight word from Maresca. This time last year, he was manager of Leicester. Things started to go wrong very badly. They were 14 points clear. They ended up with 1 point winning the title last season. So there could be a bit of history that he's just got to address things in that dressing room quickly. And just very quickly, they finished 6th last season under Maurizio Pochettino. He left 6th this season. He goes, yeah, I think he needs Champions League football. I think 6th keeps him in a job. I think anything beyond 6th of chances and make the most of it, taking a 1-0 lead over Manchester United into the interval at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, thanks to Maddison's goal just before the quarter-hour mark. Despite starting the match second best, the visitors were the first to threaten, with Højlund and Garnacho both able to test Vicario inside the first 11 minutes, before Davis's goal line clearance prevented an early deficit. It would only take 120 seconds from that moment for Spurs to pull ahead, thanks to Maddison, who was able to tap home a rebound following Onana's save on Bergvall. Garnacho really should have brought his side level with the shot from space inside the penalty area, but he failed to hit the net, blazing his effort well over the crossbar, trailing in both possession with only 33% and in expected goals with only 0.69 compared to Spurs' 0.95. Amorim's team needed to flip the script in the second half to avoid a third defeat in 4 Premier League games, but boy, they could not at the end of the day. A single goal is enough to settle the tie at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, with Maddison's lone strike after just 13 minutes, enough to see Spurs beat Manchester United for the third time this season in all competitions. Amorim's side did have their chances to equalise, with most of them falling to the foot of Garnacho, but the Argentina international was not clinical enough, failing to score despite 3 shots on target and 4 total hits, including a first-half effort that was blazed over the target from 10 yards away. A lack of senior options on the bench prevented Manchester United from changing things up after the restart, with the same 11 seeing out the 90 minutes ahead of Ovi Martin's late introduction, with tired legs adding to a relative lack of creativity as the game wore on. The 1-goal advantage didn't prevent Tottenham from coming forward at every opportunity in search of some insurance, but it ultimately wasn't required, with the win coming after an expected goal total of 2.15 compared to Manchester United's 1.54. Considerable high numbers for a match that saw 1 strike. Tottenham climb into 12th and will look to make it 3 on the bounce on Saturday against Ipswich Town, while Manchester United drop to 15th and meet Everton on the same day. That concludes our commentary of the Premier League fixture between Tottenham. Huge breaking news. 8-time FA Cup winners, Premier League leaders, Liverpool are out of the FA Cup. Beaten 1-0 at Plymouth Argyle, the bottom side in the Championship. Ryan Hardy with the only goal from the penalty spot. How impressive were Plymouth? How big is that result, Clinton? It's a big result for Plymouth moving forward. It will give them confidence. They're bottom of the Championship. New managers come in. They've lost their top player in Whittakind. They brought in some experienced players to help them. But I thought they defended magnificent. From the front to the back, I thought they were outstanding. And let me tell you something, in the last minute, there was a ball swung in. It was kept alive, and Nunez had a header from a yard out. The save from Hazard doesn't get full contact. His defender there from Hazard is brilliant. He made 2 outstanding saves at the end. So yeah, full credit must go to Plymouth. And Liverpool will be disappointed, but they've still got 3 cups to concentrate on. But yeah, Plymouth were outstanding, defending in their numbers and thoroughly deserved the victory. I think they were talking about a quadruple on 1 Hour Sports on Friday, but that's gone definitely. The orthodox treble's gone. If you've seen the Champions League, and FA Cup, did Arne Slot with 10 changes today get it wrong? No, I don't. And a lot of people will say that. No, I don't think he did get it wrong. I think their bread and butter is the Premier League. They've got a big game on Wednesday. That's how it falls. So he has to rest these players. They played a lot of football at the moment. They still had enough quality on the pitch to go and beat Plymouth, a team who have conceded the most goals in all the leagues this season. But they have brought in players, Plymouth, that have made them nice and strong. So they're just disappointed. You have games like that where you're frustrated, it doesn't click for you, and there was an opportunity for players, and it just didn't work out for the Liverpool players. You have to hold your hand up and just move on to the next game. This happens in football. That's the only blot on Arne Slot. Ever since he's come into Liverpool, all we've done is praise him, and he's been outstanding. This thing happens. It happens in football. It's one of those things you've just got to move on quickly. It's a huge one for football fans generally, isn't it? It's only the 4th time the Premier League leaders have actually gone out to lower league opposition in history. How damaging could it be to Liverpool's momentum? No, I don't think it could be damaging. Because it's not the starting 11 that play week in, week out. But listen, as a football club, you want to try and go as far as you can in cup competitions. I think it's more damaging for the group of players that don't play regularly because it's the cup competitions that you're looking to get regular game time in. So I still think Liverpool are going to win the Premier League, and I still think they'll win another trophy, whether that be the Carabao Cup or the Champions League. I still think they're the best team around in Europe at the moment, but yeah, it's a bit of a huge blow. But as I said, can't dwell on it too much. You've got to just move on to a big game on Wednesday. Yeah, big game at Goodison Park, the Merseyside derby. Rearranged, of course, because of the storms earlier in the year. Do we learn more about Liverpool now, though, after this? Because there hasn't been any real adversity, has there, this season? No, there's only been when they lost to Forest and then they bounced back, went on a great run, and everyone was thinking, when you lose to Forest at home, are you going to be the same team? They responded after that. So it's how they responded here against Everton on Wednesday night, and I'm sure they will respond because, as I said, they'll probably make 10, if not 11 changes for the team that started today, and it will be a whole different team with their best 11. So they will respond. As I said, there's just a little blip in the road. No one ain't pressing the panic button at Liverpool for getting knocked out by Plymouth. All you say is, congratulations to Plymouth. You've still got 3 cups to go and win, and they will probably win 2 of them. Has Slot learned some not good stuff about some of his squad players today? Yeah, maybe, but I think he knows a lot. Players can have bad days, and teams can have bad days. And I think Liverpool had a bad day, and a lot of the players had a bad day. I can't really pick out one player who had a good day. And they had some top players, especially in that front three area. They were really exciting players, they just didn't deliver. But sometimes you have to give credit to Plymouth. Plymouth defended literally on their 6-yard box and headed and cleared everything. It's hard if you don't move the ball quick enough, and Liverpool didn't move it quick enough. They didn't have that one player that could unlock that defense. Did it illustrate the importance of that midfield three that we see for Liverpool, or I guess the starting midfield, whichever three he selects? Yeah, you could say that, but there were two youngsters, so you can't have a go at Neone and McConnell that played in there. They're two youngsters that have been given opportunity. They don't have the experience of the Slobozai, Gravenberch and McAllister or Curtis Jones, so you have to give the youngsters a chance in these competitions, because when are you going to give them a chance? You're not going to give them a chance in a Premier League or a Champions League, so give them the opportunity. But I don't think it was that. I just think going forward in the attacking first, they didn't have enough creativity. Usually they have the likes of the Salas and the Gappos, but they didn't play. It's just one of those games. It's frustrating. Liverpool fans will be frustrated, but I think it's all about Plymouth, and you have to give them full credit. Being an Exeter man, praising Plymouth, you gave me stick, but you have to, because they were outstanding. They were outstanding. What could it do for their season? We're not suggesting they're going to go and win the FA Cup, but in terms of championship survival, 4 points from safety, can this be a huge boost for them? No. They won't win the FA Cup. I'm suggesting they won't win it. The Plymouth fans know they won't win it, but let them enjoy their moment. It's a big boost. I think you keep a clean sheet against a very good Liverpool team going into the Championship, where the teams are not as good as these Liverpool teams. It should give you confidence, especially at home park. I think home park is a hard place to go and play football. The fans get behind you. They got behind them today. They're going to need that from now to the end of the season, but let them enjoy their moment, and then they've got big games in the midweek Championship, and that's their bread and butter. It was brilliant. I think everyone's a hero, but in particular, Hardy for the penalty and Hazard making 2 big saves at the end. I thought it was brilliant. Argued with his captain at times because their emotions were running high, but credit where credit's due at the end. Big performance. 5th round draw tomorrow night. What did Plymouth want, do you think, in that? What would be the dream scenario? Probably, what? Another home tie against one of the big boys? Or maybe going away because it gets money for the football club. But I think another home tie against one of the big teams that are still left in it, because that's what you want. Get your big team to home park where you can make it horrible. It's live on the TV and everyone thinks it's going to be an upset. So that's what the Plymouth fans will be looking for. It'd be a tough trip, wouldn't it? Even for 2 Manchester clubs, United or City, if they went down there. It wouldn't be easy. Yeah, it's tough. Liverpool found it tough. Man City will find it tough. Any team can find it tough there. I think in these games, the best thing is to score the first goal. If Liverpool score the first goal, it's a different game of football because Plymouth don't sit back in their numbers. Plymouth played for this and they got the result. So huge credit to the manager as well. So how do you expect Arne Slot to respond? You're pretty confident Wednesday night goes well for Liverpool? Yeah. Listen, it's a hard game because David Moyes has gone in there and done a brilliant job. It's a Merseyside derby, the last ever one at Goodison Park. The atmosphere will be outstanding, but that group of players, they've got leaders in there, the Van Dijks, the Mo Salahs, the Alissons. I don't think they'll be disappointed with the result, but it will not affect them come Wednesday. Final thought, Clinton, it's been a long afternoon. Brilliant to have your company. Magic of the FA Cup still alive, isn't it? This is going to reverberate in history. It's going to be one of those ones we talk about. This is what it's about, the FA Cup, for these lower teams. You get drawn against the big teams like Liverpool. They're still on the pitch celebrating like they've won the FA Cup, Plymouth players, but they deserve it because some of them you don't get to play against, these top players week in, week out. And some of them might never do that. So this is what the magic of the FA Cup's all about. I hope you've enjoyed it. Yeah, club recovering well after Wayne Rooney left. Of course, Miro Musilik now in charge. Clinton, it's been a pleasure to watch the football with you as well. It was a good game, very good game. And thanks for having me. Yeah, I think you might be welcoming Plymouth now after a couple of days. I know, can you believe that? We're to chat to Nolan about what on earth happened to Manchester City in the final minutes. 2-1 up against Real Madrid, heading to Madrid with an advantage. They leave with a 3-2 defeat. What happened, Nolan? Just two glaring mistakes. First, Edison, he's got the ball in his hands. They're 2-1 up and he tries to, one of them goal kicks aside, volleys, goes horribly wrong, straight to Bellingham, who picks the right pass to Vinicius Jr., has a shot, bounces straight off of Edison. I think he should do better. Diaz scores. Then a ball just floated up to the halfway line. Bellingham tries to knot it down, and Kovacic tries to knock it back to Lewis, and it bounces, and Vinicius Jr. just gets in front of him. He's away on goal, and he lobs it over the goal. It's going horribly wide, but Bellingham just constantly made runs all day. Runs in, follows it up, scores. Yeah, we said before the game, Man City, the old Man City could play a game of 90 to 95 minutes. They don't seem to do it now. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they switch off. I don't know if it's an aging team, and the older you get, the more tired you get, the quicker you get tired, the more mistakes you make, and they just seem to switch off, and I thought they did really well up to go 2-1 up. Amazing. All right, they had to ride their luck a couple of times. Of course you will when you're playing against a team like Real Madrid, but they'll be so disappointed. I mean, we're not even mid-February yet, and they're playing for the FA Cup. So you think they're out? Well, I'll have Real Madrid. You can have Man City. What chance do you give them? None. None at all. No, I'll be shocked. I'll be majorly shocked. I see enough in Real Madrid to know that they can open them up like a knife through butter. And I just can't see how Man City can come away with this, go up a 2-1 up, and then you never know, But yeah, I mean, this is like the equivalent for me of the Liverpool-Tottenham one in the Carabao Cup. And Tottenham had a goal lead start. They've got to go. They're one behind. And it's the same old problem for Manchester City, giving up late goals. They've conceded 7 in the final 15 minutes of Champions League games. Went to Dubai for a warm weather training camp. And unfortunately, their top scorer, Kai Havertz, picked up quite a serious hamstring injury, and today there are fears that he could be out for the rest of the season. He returned to London with the rest of the squad last night. The injury is continuing to be assessed. It will be looked at again today and tomorrow, and we should get confirmation from Mikel Arteta on Friday at his news conference before the game against Leicester about how serious this injury is. But at the moment, the early indications are that it is a serious hamstring injury, which would mean that he would miss the rest of the season. Of course, it's well documented that Arsenal have had big injury problems in those forward positions, and the last thing they needed at the moment was to lose Kai Havertz. Well, some people will say they're getting what they deserve, because throughout the window, time after time, we said, do they need to sign a striker? Oh no, we have to get the right one. Now they've lost another forward player. Are they going to regret not doing some business? I mean, I think hindsight is a wonderful thing. No, it's not hindsight though, is it? They've been told window after window after window, get someone in. No, they've not done it. Now they've lost another. I think if they'd known that Kai Havertz was going to pick up this serious injury, then they would have redoubled their efforts to sign another striker in January. But behind the scenes, a lot of work was being done to sign a striker. They made a bid of £40 million for Ollie Watkins, who's 29 years old. That is a big bid for somebody who's not going to have that much of a resale value. I don't want to go over old ground again, but I think what Arsenal would say to you, and all those people who are clamoring for Arsenal to sign a striker, any striker, Arsenal would say, do you really want us to go out and spend big money on a striker in January, when our top target, somebody like Benjamin Sesko, who's only 21 years old and has a gentleman's agreement with RB Leipzig that he could leave in the summer, that would mean that we would potentially miss out on him. So I hear what you're saying, but I think I'd argue with them and I'd say, well, do you want to win something? You've not won much. Do you want to win something? If you do, get someone who can stick it in the net. I think these are the arguments that are going on behind the scenes at Arsenal. During January, there would have been some people who were making the point that you're making. We need a striker. We've got to sign somebody. We want to win the title. We want to win the Champions League. But other people would have said, hey, hold on a second. We, Arsenal Football Club, the kind of strikers we need and require are not available in January. We just have to do business in summer. And we believe in our squad. And we still think we can achieve something. Now, interestingly, of course, Mikel Arteta is aware of all this clamour, all this noise around why didn't Arsenal sign a striker. And just a few days ago, we spoke to him, another journalist spoke to him in one of his news conferences, and this is what he had to say about not signing a striker. We couldn't do it for certain reasons. The FA Cup has just taken place, and Plymouth's prize for knocking out Liverpool is a trip to Manchester City. How about that for Muslik's men, who performed so brilliantly yesterday? They've got to do another huge cup upset if they want to get through to the quarterfinals. I'll run you through the draw in full. Let's start with Preston coming out of the hat. First of all, they'll be facing Burnley in an all-championship affair. Aston Villa, who knocked out Tottenham in the last round, have a home tie against Championship Cardiff. As for the game tonight, Doncaster or Crystal Palace, they know that they will be hosting Millwall in the next round. Could be an all-London affair, that one. Ruben Amorim's Manchester United taking on Fulham, Newcastle, Brighton and Bournemouth Wolves in 3-all Premier League ties in the middle of the draw. And then the big one, the standout tie, Manchester City, Pep Guardiola's Manchester City, taking on bottom of the Championship Plymouth after they dumped out Liverpool, and the draw rounded off with Exeter City or Nottingham Forest. That plays tomorrow night. Nottingham Forest, the highest ranked team left in the tournament by the way, they will be facing Premier League Ipswich. So that is your round for the 5th round. That's your draw, I should say. Brilliant best at a news conference today ahead of Fenerbahce's Europa League tie with Anderlecht tomorrow. Mourinho has admitted he's no longer the special one after a post by Galatasaray forward Mario Icardi claimed him to be the crying one. Instead, the two have fallen out on social media over recent humble decisions in the Turkish league. I showed that I am a special one, not the special one with 25 years of career, with 26 titles, and not with one match. There is not one match to define my career. My career is a career of 25 years. In relation to the comments or the posts of Mourinho, he has also had his say on injuries. Much like his Premier League counterpart, Mourinho has been dealing with plenty of them this season, but he's refused to blame his medical team. Is the football calendar in the firing line? Nobody touched my people. I realized that in the past was currently throwing people to the fire. In my case, it's exactly the opposite. I put water in the fire to protect my people. There is not one single blame to the doctor. The same way, probably last season, the doctor was not also to blame. Who is to blame? Football. Football is to blame. In football, people get injured. Football today is high, intense football. The players run more than before. The players run with a higher intensity than before. The players have less time to recover.